Good morning, children. Today during class, we're going to learn about decimal vocabulary. And with decimal vocabulary, we're also going to be sprinkling a little bit of the different operations for number sentences into this video. So the first word I'd like to define is whole number. A whole number is a number that's complete. Numbers like 1, 8, 562 are whole numbers. So a lot of times we like to refer to them as complete numbers. And examples, someone like to give me an example of a whole number? You can blurt.
3.
3. Another one?
8. 10.
15,000.
Sure, 15,000.
25.
Excellent. The next vocabulary word we're going to talk about today is decimal point. A decimal point is a period that separates a whole number from parts of a whole number. A decimal point separates the whole number from the decimal value. So a decimal point separates a whole number from a part. So when we think of a decimal point, we could come up with one that's like 3 and 2/10. Notice I say "and" when I see that decimal point. 3 is your whole number, and the 2/10 represents a part of a whole. 2 out of the 10 parts of a whole. Then we have 3 place values to the right of the decimal. So I'd like to discuss those 3 place values. The first one is tenths. And tenths would be 1 place value to the right of the decimal point. And an example of that would be 7/10. The 7 is in the tenths place value. The next one is the hundredths. The hundredth is 2 place values to the right of the decimal point. And I'm just going to put a decimal point there just to save you some time in writing out the definition. And an example of this would be 7/100ths. The 7 here is in the second place value to the right of the decimal. So it would be called the hundredths place value. And you would say this 7/100ths. The next place value we're going to talk about in 6th grade, that's to the right of the decimal, is thousandths. Now there are other place values, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, to the right of the decimal, but in 6th grade, we only have to go up to the thousandths place value. And the thousandths, if we follow this pattern with our vocabulary definitions, can anyone predict how many place values to the right the thousandths place value would be? Drake?
3.
Perfect. So it's 3 place values to the right of the decimal point. And children, you can just put that big old decimal point there, just so you can save some time taking your notes. So to put 7 thousandths, it would be decimal point 0, 0, and a 7. So the 7 is in the thousandths place value. I want to make sure you're paying special attention to the suffix we see at the end of these 3 vocabulary words. The suffix that I notice is THS. When THS is added to these base words or root words, it changes the meaning and now it becomes a decimal. It's almost like, children, that you have to bite your tongue and give me a snake sound at the end of each vocabulary word. So we say thousandths, hundredths, tenths. Can you please say it with me? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Very good. Good job biting your tongue and becoming my little snakes. So this is the decimal vocabulary, children, that we're going to be talking about during this unit. I wanted to also give you a quick review of some other vocabulary words that has to do with different operations. We're going to start with adding. And the answer to an adding problem is called a sum. So if you would like to write answer and then put an addition sign, that would be fine. So when you're asking for the sum, you're looking for the result of adding 2 integers or 2 numbers together. The next one is difference. Can anyone predict what operation you would do for difference?
Subtraction.
Subtract. Excellent. So that would be the answer or the result for a subtraction problem, is called the difference. Next, we're going to do product. And that's the answer. Does anyone know? You can blurt.
Multiplication.
Multiplication. Good. I wanted to add another vocabulary word with the multiplication, with the product. The 2 numbers that you're multiplying together are called factors. So if we were doing 7 times 6 equals 42, the 7 and the 6 would be called the factors. They're the numbers you're multiplying together. anyone predict the next operation we're going to discuss?
Division.
Very good. So the answer to a division problem is called a quotient. And there's two last vocabulary words I'd like to add to the division category. And they are divisor and dividend. For the divisor and dividend, those are the two numbers you're dividing into or dividing by. I have a little trick that might help you keep the divisor and the dividend separated. So if we were to divide 7 into 42, the divisor is the 7. And the way I keep the divisor and the dividend separate is that the divisor is angry because it can't get inside the house, inside the division house. So it's the divisor because it's angry, get it? Divisor because it wants to get in the house. The 42 is the dividend because it's already in the house. Do you see the dividend? Get it? Because it's in the house. It's the larger number. Usually it's the larger number we're dividing into. So the divisor is usually the smaller number that we're dividing by. And I try to remember divisor. It wants to get into the house. It's mad because it's outside of the division house. The dividend is already inside the division house. And that's usually the larger number we're dividing into. So here's 12 vocabulary words. And tonight your homework is to review these vocabulary words and study them. And during class today, let's go ahead and review them together.